ho, ho, and happy holidays. Welcome to Based on a Book, the podcast that appreciates all of their supportive friends, family, and listeners that help them through their very first season of reviewing book adaptations.
Yay.
I'm your host, Keri, and I always avoid my neighbors year round.
I'm Lindsey, and I'm skipping my intro.
Okay. I'm Crystal, and I have a personal relationship with the guy at the liquor store.
Today's episode is a holiday treat as we dive into Skipping Christmas by John Grisham and its 2004 movie adaptation, and my personal favorite, Christmas with the Kranks, starring Jamie Lee Curtis and Tim Allen. John Grisham is actually known for many of his legal thrillers that were also made into films and TV shows, which I did not know about. I believe he has a total of 14 different works
So
that were
many.
made into film or TV shows.
You had no idea?
No, I had no clue.
Okay. All right. That's all
I
right.
also had no clue.
Brand new to
Oh my
me.
gosh. This is the generational gap in its finest moment, because like John Grisham is like, we all know, like at least me in my group, like legal thrillers, like duh. Like,
No, I
you
had
guys
no
are just
idea.
like Christmas with the Cranks.
Yeah, that's the Skipping Christmas guy.
Oh Lord.
His name sounded familiar, but I couldn't tell you any of his other work. So.
Oh my.
Yeah. But let's set the scene for today's episode, which is after the Crank's daughter leaves to spend Christmas away on a Peace Corps mission, Luther proposes they skip the holiday entirely and use the money they would spend on gifts, decorations, and parties to take a cruise instead. As chaos ensues from their holiday-obsessed neighbors, this hilarious holiday classic proves that no matter how hard you try to avoid it, Christmas has a way of finding you. So let's get into
Aw.
our ratings and non-spoiler reviews. So I'll go ahead and start first this time. I think my rating was probably caused from the fact that, I've watched this movie like a million times. I've never read this book before, but I've watched it a million times and love this movie specifically because this is something my parents would do. Me and my sister go away to college and they're like, "You know what? This year, I think we're going to skip Christmas and go on a cruise." So this is something very specific I think my parents would do, and we always would laugh about this. And then we would come home and be like, "Actually, we're coming home for Christmas. So you're going to need to, get everything together and traditions need to continue." So I think because it reminds me of that, and I've always loved this Christmas movie a lot, I gave it 4 Frosties that must be freed from the basement.
Okay.
So,
Get it, girl.
yeah. Lindsey, what about you?
I'm going to be honest. It kind of made me angry. I had seen the movie before, so that wasn't new. The book, everybody's just so nosy, and Luther's such a Debbie Downer.
Mhm.
So my rating is basically the same for the book and the movie, but I gave it 2.5 ho ho ho's. So more like ho ho oh.
Okay.
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 Okay, Crystal.
Well, I read this book not long after it came out. It came out in 2001, not long after 9/11. The country was definitely different from when it was written. Like, obviously, he wrote this before 9/11 happened for it to get edited and proofread and sent to the printers and all that. So, I think a lot of us at the time needed something to laugh about, and right away, like, John Grisham wrote a holiday novel. Like, everybody at first was like, "No way," but then, everybody started talking about how good it was, and again, we all kind of needed something to be lighthearted and funny after something so horrific. So I picked it up then and I loved it. It was exactly what I needed. It brought a little bit of levity and joy and normalcy back to a world that kind of still felt scary, especially a whole bunch of people who were suddenly wanting to travel for Christmas after something so horrific involving travel, something like this kind of lifted a lot of that stress out. So I think part of why this hit so well when it did is because it was exactly what we needed at the exact right time. Having said that, this reread definitely opened my eyes to some things that, like, oh, this is an over 20-year-old book.
Mhm.
So there's some stuff in there that now made me, kind of raise my eyebrows, cringe a little bit. But having said that, I gave the book 3.5 nosy neighbors.
They were so
They were
nosy.
so nosy. It was still
So
a super
annoying.
enjoyable read to me. Not quite not quite what I remembered, but again, I think that it was just it's a reading it at a different time
Oh, yeah.
made a significant difference.
Definitely. Totally. I know exactly what you're talking about. Especially with, like, these, like, early 2000s books. It's just, like, the language, what it's talking about or discussing, it's just like, "Really?"
Right? Well, there's one part in the very, very beginning, like within the first 2 pages,
Mhm.
where they're at the airport because their daughter is, like you said, going on a Peace Corps mission. Um, and they're at the airport dropping her off, but they don't just like kick her at the curb or even take her to the ticket. They walk her all the way to her concourse, all the way to the, and that's something that did happen pre 9/11. You
Yep.
know what I mean?
Mhm.
So when I read that part, I was like, oh, wow, this is from a different time.
Yeah.
Like it's still like they have cell phones, they have, nice cars, they have like the news. I don't think they ever bring up the internet or email that much. But like it's not so hard to picture yourself there, but at the same time, it's a whole different world.
Mhm.
So that was really kind of interesting, like that little flashback in my head of remembering like when my parents took me to the airport to drop me off and they walked me all the way to my plane. They sat with me until I boarded. That doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so before we get into our book versus movie breakdown, big spoiler warning because we're going to get into all of our spoilers. So before you move on with us, read the book, watch the movie if you already haven't, because it's pretty hilarious, in my opinion. Fun.
Mhm.
Maybe not to Lindsay. Not to Lindsay.
Oops.
Overall, good time to me, maybe upsetting. So if you've already done that, grab your hot cocoa, sit back, and let's get into the festive fun. And in my opinion, a pretty spot on adaptation.
Yes.
I was shocked because
Yeah.
again, I've read the book and I've seen the movie. I
Mhm.
think everyone, if they haven't seen the movie, they should have. It's out there.
Yeah.
It plays all the time every year. And it should, it's good. But I remember watching the movie and I guess I just didn't realize how like there was such a gap between when I read the book
Mhm.
and when I saw the movie for the first time that I didn't realize how spot on it was. It's really it follows the book so well using the same names as some of the stores that she visits,
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
using the same names as like the business that Tim Allen works for, like it's Luther works for, like it's really kind of awesome.
Yeah. I loved it. And
Mhm.
even bringing, like, the neighborhood to life,
Mhm.
bringing exactly I mean, it's kind of hard to say considering, if you've watched the movie, like, a ton of times and going back to read the book, it's a different kind of experience because you're kind of all you're really getting when you have that experience is you're getting added detail, right?
Right, right.
You're just getting some more background information of what's going on. Like, I'll get into it in a little bit, but it's not gonna be the same as bringing the story to life,
Right.
but I can imagine, like, especially the characters, bringing the characters to life, like Jamie Lee Curtis bringing Nora to life. His name is slipping from my mind at this moment that plays Luther. Tim
Tim
Allen.
Allen.
Tim Allen,
Yeah.
yeah.
Tim Allen bringing Luther to life, like, exactly being the grumpiest guy and just being, somewhat of like a Scrooge, basically, this entire time, kinda bringing that to life as well. I thought they did those roles perfectly.
Oh, casting was
Absolutely.
perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even Frohmeyer, which we'll get
Even
Yeah.
into.
Frohmeyer. Yeah,
Frohmeyer was
absolutely.
so good.
Yeah, so good.
There are so many cameos in this movie,
Mhm.
but seeing Dan Aykroyd, like, he he was so perfect for this role. Like, there were a couple of parts even at the end that I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's so Dan Aykroyd," but it fit the character so well that I like, legit, this is probably I'm so glad we did this one. Like, at first I was like, "It's skipping Christmas. It's, everybody knows that one. Maybe we won't do that." But I'm so glad we decided on this. Because it was a real pleasure, a real joy to watch that and remember how much fun it was, for me at
Yeah.
least. Sorry about
Yeah.
your luck there, Lindsay.
Yeah.
Honestly, no, I mean, there were some really good moments in the book and in the movie. There's the scene, I don't want to get too much into it, but there's the scene with the Christmas trees and the Boy Scouts,
Mhm.
and when they really introduce Dan Aykroyd's character, and Nora and Luther are staring out the window, and one of them says, "Who's he gonna call?" I was like,
Right?
"Ghostbusters!"
Yes. Yep.
There are so
Yeah.
many just, like, little tiny, like, and I can't think of the kid's name, he's an adult now, but he was on Malcolm in the Middle, and the
He
kid,
plays Spike.
he's plays
Mhm.
Spike,
Mhm.
and he's, like, the perfect casting for Spike.
Yeah.
It just really I like the casting of this movie is far and away one of the best castings of any book adaptation ever, really.
Yeah. And I every single year, I'm just, like, in tears laughing at this movie. I don't
Mhm.
know why. It is just so funny to me. It just hits my funny bone every single time,
Well,
even
yeah,
though I'm, like, quoting it and I'm still cracking up.
well, there's so many different kinds of humor too, though.
Yeah.
Like, there's puns, there's situational humor, there's sarcasm, there's physical comedy. Like, it's just it hits every box. And
Mhm.
it's really it's this is a good movie. I
Yeah.
honestly forgot how good it was.
Yeah. And then whenever I was reading the book, it's hard to say if, like, the humor is as good on page as
Mhm.
it is in the movie. Like, I would say the movie, like, does it better. Like, I
Mhm.
don't think the book is as funny, like, they really take it really far in the movie.
So, I listened to the audiobook
Mhm.
and I have the physical copy, but again, I was just like, "Oh, we're doing skipping Christmas." And so I turned on the audiobook thinking I'll clean the house while I'm doing this. And at a certain point, I sat down and followed along in the book because the audiobook was really well done.
Mhm.
And I think the way the narrator read kind of helped to, like, those moments of comedy when you're trying to read it that don't quite hit, they read it in a way that really kind of, like, that extra punch of levity, of funny, of sarcasm. And I started marking along in the book, moments that were just like, I'm glad I'm listening to the audiobook. It was worth it.
Yeah. That's always good. I love when a narrator can bring that to life and it's not, like,
Mhm.
monotone or something, like, it
Right.
makes it funny. So, I love that. So, let's go ahead and get into, starting from the very beginning of the book, where, like we said earlier, the book begins with the Sunday after Thanksgiving, where they are spending at the airport, which is pure nightmare fuel for most. Nobody wants to spend the Sunday after Thanksgiving at the
Mm-mm.
airport, where our two main characters, Nora and Luther, are dropping off their only daughter, Blair, who is leaving for Peru to join the Peace Corps and will not be home until next Christmas. So Nora's really sad. Her only daughter's leaving, and it's really emotional goodbye between Nora and Blair. But Luther's like, dad, more focused on the traffic and how fast he can get back home. He's like, "All right, let's wrap this up real quick. We gotta go."
Mhm.
Airport traffic is like I'm not gonna get back home till midnight at this point.
Right.
There's also a quote from the book that I wrote down at this point where it says, "Things would get worse for Luther." I love the foreshadowing.
Mhm.
Like, that's
Mhm.
such a good touch, and we've
Yeah.
seen it in a few books, but, like, this was nice.
I
Yeah.
love, honestly, this first chapter, like, of Luther, of them going home, and then they stop at the store, and, like, he's already upset because, like, obviously his daughter's leaving, and
Mhm.
his wife is very upset,
Mhm.
right? So he's already, like, kinda grumpy because, like, now he has to deal with his upset wife, and he's upset too, but at the same time, it's like, but I also have to, like, care for her and tell her, she's gonna be fine, and how many times can you say she's gonna be fine?
Yeah. Yeah.
But then he's gotta fight traffic, and it's already snowy, rainy
Yep.
outside, and then he's like, they gotta stop at the store, and it's pouring down rain, and he can't park close, like, it's just one thing after another, and, like, I think we've all had those days,
Yeah. For sure.
and the way it's written, man, I felt it.
Yeah.
Like, in this first chapter, like, yeah, Luther's a kind of a jerk, kind of an asshole through the whole thing, he's grumpy Gus, it's just annoying. But, like, the way they set it up in this chapter, we kinda get it,
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, that entire scene where, like, Nora's making him stop for groceries, you know, it's raining, and he's like goes in and he needs to get like the chocolate, he needs to get the pistachios. It's very specific kind of pistachios, very specific kind of white chocolate. And, it's like this funny back and forth in the movie where he's like running around in the rain. It's like literally pouring rain. And she's like, "No, I'll just go do it myself then." He's like, "No, no, fine, I'll go do it." It's just like a funny
right,
little moment, and I feel like everyone can kind of like relate to this moment, especially whether you witnessed
right.
somebody doing that or you've been in that position yourself, and I think it's really funny.
I will say, like, I didn't notice it until this time, but what's the deal with John Grisham writing about Luther's feet? Because, like, first Luther steps in a puddle on his way out of the car to go into the grocery store, and then on his way out of the grocery store, he steps in a puddle with his other foot. And then later on, he talks about, like, further down in the book, he's wearing warm socks in bed to keep his feet warm. And then he has to take his socks off because his feet get too warm. Like, there's just, he goes on and on about
I didn't
Luther's
even notice
feet.
that, but now that you bring it up, I totally remember that.
It's the foreshadowing for the ending.
Honestly, I think so. I
Yeah,
think so.
maybe.
That we won't tell you yet.
Yeah.
We're not there.
So,
Foreshadow.
in the movie, this moment whenever he's, like, running back and forth between inside the store and out of the store, this actually triggers an idea for him because he sees an advertisement on the store.
Wait, I have a mark that I wanna talk about.
Okay.
Well, I don't wanna talk about it, I wanna bitch about it because 'cause I'm
Okay.
mad. What do you know? Crystal's mad again. So, at one point in the book, she does go back into the store. Nora goes back into the store, and Luther stays in the car. And he is sitting in the car waiting, and he's kind of just, like, staring into the parking lot kinda aimlessly, and he switched the heater vents to the floorboards to thaw his feet. But what I really marked was, then watched the large people come and go at the burger place. Fat
Mind your
shaming already, are
business.
we?
Yeah, mind your business.
Pretty much. Like, and this is how you know it was written in 2001.
Yeah.
'Cause nobody would dare write that now, and if they did, I'd let them know about it.
Yeah. You're done.
John Grisham, get it together. I would like to know what you have against large people and fast food.
Oh, man. Okay, so
I only have 2 other marks in the whole book, so
I believe you. So, in the movie, like I said, this triggers an idea for him because he sees an advertisement on the store of a cruise ship. But in the book, the cruise idea comes a little bit later because he is just like thinking about Christmas, thinking about all the money they spend on Christmas because he's also an accountant. So
Mhm.
he calculates all the money they spend on Christmas, like Christmas decorations, presents, you know, that, you know, that cheap perfume that you gave somebody and that they never ever use and just pass around
Mhm.
forever. and, the scarf that you gave someone and they never ever wore again. He's just
And all the
calculating all this
stupid
stuff.
donations that you feel like you have to make, and the
Yeah.
calendar you have to buy for the fundraiser,
Yeah.
and
And he comes to a grand total of around $6,100 that they spent on Christmas last year.
I believe it's 6,132 in the movie.
Yeah.
which is, according to the book, 9% of his adjusted gross income. So I did some math.
Oh, I did math too. What's your math?
Yay!
Basically $68,000 a year. Basically, he was making $68,000 a year. That's the math I got to.
I did inflation.
Oh, I didn't do any. I was just because, and this is my point. In 2001, at $68,000 a year, they were living in a really nice house. And I know that you can be all like, oh, the movie made it look huge. Well, the movie did make it look huge. But even in the book, they're living in a fairly comfortable neighborhood. His wife drives
Mhm.
an Audi, he drives a Lexus. Like,
Yep.
these are very well to do people. She also doesn't seem to have a job in the book. She does a lot of charity work, and she's
Mhm.
on like all these little housewife committees. But for $68,000 a year in 2001, they were living high on the hog. I'm just saying. And
Mhm.
there are people in this world today that do not make $68,000 a year. There are whole households that do not make $68,000 a year. And even if they made $68,000 a year, they ain't barely living in a house like that.
Nope.
Just saying.
Nope.
That's my rant. I was mad about it. But what do you know?
But it's facts.
It's facts. And my next mark isn't for like 7 more chapters. So we're good now.
Wait, what were you gonna say, Lindsay?
I did the inflation math. So $6,100 back in 2001, 2004, depending on book or movie, is roughly about 10,000. It's $10,854.29 from 2001.
There
So
you
that's
go.
an expensive Christmas.
That's a
That
very expensive
is
Christmas.
It's a
And that at
very
9% of
expensive.
10,000, so if that's 9% of his adjusted gross income, then his adjusted gross income would have been around $120,000 a year. Just
And there
saying.
you have it.
Boom, math.
Mic drop.
Man, I hate math. It makes me feel poor.
Okay, so now he's made all these calculations. Now he has decided to present the possibility to Nora to take a $3,000 cruise instead of celebrating Christmas, spending money on Christmas and doing all that. Essentially skipping Christmas and going on a $3,000 cruise instead.
Which would be $5,350.
Which is kind of an expensive cruise. Like, I went on a cruise like 2 years ago.
Mm.
That's a very expensive cruise. Like, I was like, how long are they going on a cruise for?
Well, it was 10 days according to the movie.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't
I
say
think
that
it
in the
was
book, I don't think.
7-day cruise. And I mean, it depends on your location, I guess, but
And I think that was the cost for both of them. So the double occupancy
Yeah.
for 10 days. And he did say like
that's true.
that it was like all inclusive and
Mhm.
everything. And I still feel like that they probably got a nicer room, and maybe that included
Yeah.
the flights because they
Yep.
are in the like the I think this is set in the Chicago area, right? I'm pretty sure.
Possibly.
But
think
either way, they're
maybe.
set where there's snow, so they're gonna have to fly
Yeah.
to the cruise.
Yeah.
So maybe that included the flights.
Yeah, that makes sense. So he presents this to Nora. So he's sitting at the dinner table. This part always makes me laugh because he's pretending to be so sad. He's like, Christmas just won't be the same. It'll be so depressing, without Blair here. And
Mhm.
Nora's like, yeah,
He hams it up.
I know, he really does. And he's like, I have an idea. I know how to make it better. And, presents
His
his
freaking
idea.
PowerPoint.
Yeah, his whole, well, instead it's
Welcome
a
to my TED
binder.
Talk.
Yeah, a binder here. If it was me, it'd be an Excel spreadsheet. It'd be like, this
Mhm.
is
It
this is
would.
why this is a good idea. Sitting at the dinner table and basically presenting why they'll save money going on this cruise instead of spending all this money on Christmas, but they have to skip Christmas. And Nora's like, we save money? I mean, that doesn't sound like a bad idea. But she's like, we still need to like donate to charity, do our regular donations. He's like, no, it's basically a boycott. Like, we can't be doing any of it. And she's like, no. But eventually he
Mhm.
agrees
Let me
that
say I'm very proud of a woman in a book setting a boundary and sticking to it,
yeah.
and it worked for her. I'm just
And he
saying, women out there, it'll work for you. Do it.
it was funny because he's like, "You're gonna let a lousy, like, $600 stand in the way of going on the cruise?" She's like, "No, but you are."
Uh-huh. Mhm. She was not gonna let him manipulate her.
Yep.
I loved it.
So now at this point, they, like, made the final decision, okay, they're gonna skip Christmas and go on this cruise instead. So now this whole neighborhood or town is weird as hell,
Mhm.
and or maybe it's just me, but personally, I think it's very strange and requires everyone to follow rules regarding their Christmas traditions. So when
Mhm.
someone falls outside the rules, no one knows how to function anymore.
And they don't mention that there's an HOA, but this is straight up HOA activity.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's definitely giving HOA vibes. So, because of this, Nora and Luther begin encountering neighbors and such that are used to them participating in Christmas neighborly traditions, and they have to slowly reveal to them that they will be skipping Christmas, basically.
And at first, everybody seems to kinda get it because 'cause they're like, "Yeah, with Blair gone, like, we understand, but
Mhm.
you're still gonna do the party, right? Like,
Yeah,
you're still gonna decorate, right? You're
yeah.
still gonna send out Christmas cards, right?"
Mhm.
And that's when they're like, "Wait a minute, what?"
Yeah.
Like
It feels more, like, okay in the book, but in the
Right.
movie, it's very dramatic that they're, like, so appalled. Like, for example, the very first time, like, Nora kinda has to tell her friends or has to tell the guy at, like, the pumpkin seed where she usually gets her Christmas
Her
cards.
stationer.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, come on.
I know, I
Come
love it.
on
And
now.
okay, listen, again, I'm older, and I know it's like I'm older by a whopping, like, 10 years, but that 10 years makes a huge difference because legit, I used to have a stationer. Like, my family could tell you exactly where to go to order your printed Christmas cards every year.
Mhm.
And we knew the people who worked there by name, like, and
Yeah.
they knew who ordered every year. Like, that was not an uncommon thing in the '90s, like, at all, you know? To know where you could get stuff printed, like, not just your business cards, but, like, we didn't go to Vistaprint. There was no Snapfish. There was no, like, we weren't ordering all this online. We had to call someone at a printer's where you could order all that stuff. So
Yeah.
so that was a thing.
Yeah.
Like, I
I
remember,
see that.
honestly watching it now, I was like, "Oh my god, this is so old." But, like, legit,
Mhm.
like, shout out to Print and Go, like, I'm just saying, like,
Yeah.
we knew.
And in the movie, it's just it's so funny and dramatic because she's like, "Oh, I won't be needing Christmas cards this year," and, like, they're just so appalled, like, they just can't believe that she wouldn't be ordering Christmas cards. There's like,
Mhm.
"No Christmas cards?" There's a
And then
mom.
and then he's all like, "But what about the invitations for your Christmas party? You were gonna order those, right?"
Yeah, and she's
And
like,
then he's like,
"No."
"No
Yeah.
party?"
And
Like
then there's a moment where, like, in the movie, she's, like, sitting at a table, like, with her girlfriends, and they're talking she's trying to explain that they're not gonna have a Christmas Eve party, and because they're gonna be skipping Christmas, and that they're gonna be going on a cruise, and they're leaving on, December 25th, and you can see the guy who does the invitations, like, in
Mhm.
the background, whispering with
Yes.
everyone and, like, looking
Yes.
at her, like, evilly, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh," and, like, she's like, "No, we're not doing it." Everyone, like, quiets down and is, like, looking at her and is like
Mhm.
and she's, like, crouching down at the table, like, embarrassed. I'm like, "Oh my gosh." Like, this town is
It was
insane.
definitely over the top.
Yeah, but it's so funny. It's so funny.
It's
And there's
honestly
also
hilarious. The harassment level,
yeah.
not good, don't harass your neighbors, but also hilarious.
Lindsay's, like, so upset.
She's
Yeah, that's what got me.
Yeah. The neighbors being too nosy. So they also have, like, a moment, like, where they're confronted by the Boy Scouts, trying to sell them the Christmas tree because they get one every year, and they're like, "No, we won't be needing a Christmas tree this year. We won't be buying one." And in the book, he's like, "I'll donate or I'll be giving money later in the year." Basically, like, in Luther's mindset, he's like, "If I give in for, like, just one little thing, it's
Mhm.
just gonna be like a domino effect, and I'm just gonna
Yep.
do everything, and then I'm gonna be buying a cruise and spending all this money on Christmas.
Yep.
So that's, like, I feel like that is his mindset. He's like, "If I give in one thing," and then he, like, is so tight on it that
He's
he
he just
becomes,
becomes
like,
he becomes a Grinch.
yeah, he becomes a Grinch. So, what I think is another big difference between, I mean, not another big difference, but, like, one big difference between the book and the movie is that in the book, they're very, like, try to be hush hush about things, but in the movie, Luther is very confident, and he sends, like, a
Yep.
email out to, like, his whole, work
Yeah. He,
saying,
like, hand delivers this letter to people
yeah.
at work and is, like, thrilled to, like, tell them, "I ain't coming
Yeah.
to the Christmas party. I ain't coming to the gift exchange. We're not
Mhm.
doing the fund You can tell me Merry Christmas, and I won't bah humbug you, but I ain't showing up for nothing." And it was like, "Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Get it, Tim Allen."
Yeah.
Now in the book, he kinda tells people and people find out, like, when he has to tell people,
Mhm.
and one of the guys at his accounting firm is like, "This is brilliant. I wanna do that too, but my wife would kill me." And
Mhm.
he's so excited that he starts keeping track of every red cent that gets spent on Christmas in his own house and keeps giving Luther a running tally throughout the next few weeks. I thought that
Yeah.
was hilarious because, like, of course, at an accounting firm, the accountants don't wanna do
Yeah.
Christmas. Like
Yeah, definitely. Then also during specifically that Christmas tree incident, all the rumors are going around like crazy. And then someone catches wind of these changes in the Crank family. And as we said
Frohmeyer.
earlier, Big Frohmeyer, the self appointed ward of the neighborhood,
He's the president of the non-existent HOA.
yeah, he is not happy about this. Like we said before, he's played by Dan
Aykroyd.
Aykroyd in the
Mhm.
movie. So in the book, Frohmeyer puts Luther's, we don't really see this too much in the movie, but in the book, Frohmeyer puts Luther's seriousness to the test by sending out a letter announcing when everyone in the neighborhood will be putting up Frosty. And Frosty is like this huge plastic Frosty the Snowman that goes on everyone's roof. This is part of the HOA, apparently,
Mhm.
that goes on everyone's roof on Hemlock Street, and it's basically used to win this, like, Christmas competition, and they all have to, like, decorate their house and put this giant Frosty on their roof, and every single house on the street has it. And Luther says that he's not putting up the Frosty because, like I said, it's gonna be cause of the domino effect, even though that wouldn't do anything about money, it
And
wouldn't
see
cost any money.
yeah, and this is the one part of the book that, like, I kinda see where Luther's coming from, like, you give an inch, they'll take a mile,
Mhm,
but at the same time, like, if they would have said from the very beginning, "We will do all the things that cost 0 money." Like,
mhm,
we'll still put out the Christmas lights that we already own and have already paid for. We'll still put up Frosty because we already have him, he's already paid for. We'll show up to your Christmas party or we'll come to the Christmas parade because it's free,
yeah,
but we're not spending any money. Like if they had put that line in the sand, I think people would have been a lot more respectful of it, in which case we wouldn't have such a hilarious book.
yep,
But I still feel like that was just kind of like, really, Luther? Come on, put the
yeah.
freaking Frosty up.
And this played out pretty funny in the movie
It
because,
was
like we
hilarious.
said, like, Frohmeyer, he has this moment because you don't know who it is, and he is, like, standing off in the distance, and, Nora and Luther are both hiding behind the curtain, in the window
Mhm.
and, like, looking out and seeing him standing there, and then he turns around and you see who's playing Frohmeyer, and it's really funny.
It's hilarious.
And, then eventually they actually, like, go in the basement to, like, hide from everyone outside and, like, Frosty's down there, and it just plays out hilariously. Where was I? I'm, like, I'm just getting ahead of
Oh, they're
myself.
supposed to put up the Frosties. He's sent out the notice.
Yeah. So, So as Luther sees everyone is starting to put up their frosties and Christmas decorations, we also get introduced to neighbors Walt and Bev Shield. Luther is like super competitive with them, and they have like a really funny banter in the movie between Walt and Luther. Bev is like a really sweet woman, but she is also very sick, which is sad. We're also introduced to, like we said before, Spike Frohmeyer, which is Frohmeyer's son. He's like the little mini Frohmeyer, like riding his bike around the neighborhood. Also, I guess policing the neighborhood in some sense with all the other
It's like
neighborhood kids about
yeah, like
Christmas.
his dad made him feel like, "This is your job, Spike, like, keep an eye on things for me, bud," and he does, he goes back and reports stuff to his dad all the time.
Yeah. And, Frohmeyer like confronts Luther as well about Frosty, making it more like, Frohmeyer wants to win this competition. And this competition thing isn't really in the movie. It's like alluded to, but it's more like Frosty like I remember watching the movie and be like, what is the deal with Frosty? Like, what is the big deal about Frosty being on the roof so badly? Like, I understand like it all looks nice together, but it wasn't really like talked about the fact that it was like part of a competition
Mhm.
on the street. So that kind of gives more information in the book of why the whole point of if you don't participate, then they're probably not going to win or something.
'Cause there's a whole other street. They do, like, um, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Yeah. So at this point, also like Nora kind of has her moments of like questioning her decision. Um, but you know what I just thought of too? This is off topic, random. But I thought of the fact that they probably also weren't like decorating for Christmas and stuff because I just remembered like whenever he was like doing all those calculations, like they spent like an astronomical amount on like just ornament repair. I was just like
Yeah,
thinking of that.
that's
I
true.
was like, that was insane.
Yeah, I've never heard of that before.
Like, that was really crazy. But yeah, so at this point, Nora has her moments of questioning her decision, but in the book, she receives a letter from Blair, which is not in the movie, that kind of solidifies her decision. And they continue to prepare for like their cruise with Luther, signing them up for tanning at one point. And basically, we have a snowball effect on their decision, and the choices just keep piling up on top of each other. Like the police coming for donations with their calendars. I feel like in the movie, Luther is like more of an ass than he is in the book. I mean, they kind of go like he's like a different type of asshole in the movie than he is in the book. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. No, I can definitely see that.
Yeah, like, he's just, like the way that he acts in the movie is, like,
He's like
cocky.
yeah, he's very cocky in the movie, and he's more like, almost stoic kind of jerk in the book, like, he's just
Yeah,
very matter of fact, very logical, like, "We're
yeah,
not even gonna discuss it," kinda thing,
yeah,
whereas in the movie, he's very like, "We're not gonna discuss it because I know I'm right,"
yeah,
Yep,
like
yep.
yeah, exactly. It's, like, a different type of jerk, basically. And, during this moment and whenever they have people that come to their door for, like, what they usually would give money to, in the book, Luther is like, "Well, whenever after Christmas, like, I still will donate and do all these things, just not right now during Christmas." Because, he needs to stick to his guns, I guess. And, in the movie, he like I said, he's kinda has, like, this more, like, cockiness about it, and he's just like, "Yeah, we're not doing that. We're not doing that." Moving on, and, the cops are like, "Oh, okay." Like, you're not gonna buy a calendar like you do every year, or like the Boy Scouts, you're not gonna buy a Christmas tree like you do
Mhm.
every year. So, it's becoming the snowball effect where like everyone is kind of hating on the Cranks.
Well, Nora is also somewhat different in the movie and the book because in the movie, she's like, "Oh my god, I can't believe you're not gonna do that. You're not gonna buy the calendar. I can't believe you're not gonna buy a Christmas tree. How dare you?"
Mhm.
In the book, she basically just ran away the whole time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
feel like
exactly.
in the book, though, like, it did a slightly better job of differentiating the different roles of a man and a woman in a very traditional 90s, middle income Christmas, right? Like the man had to deal with explaining to the guys at work why he wouldn't come to the Christmas party. Well, I mean, it's a whole bunch of men working in an accounting firm. Nobody cared. Whereas she had to explain to all of her girlfriends and all these people on the volunteer committees and stuff that she wasn't going to be hosting the annual Christmas Eve party that everybody looked forward to, which was a lot more pressure because everybody kept saying, well, why not? And they didn't understand, or they didn't want to understand the why. So I feel like
Mhm.
in the book, they did a really good job of kind of like the societal pressure of keeping up those social norms on a woman, whereas the financial stuff was more on Luther's side. But again, he works in an accounting firm, so the majority of people he had to explain it to didn't care, and the ones who did care, he didn't have to deal with. She had to hear about it later, like from the Boy Scouts and the firemen, and she was the one who had to like, duck down low in her car when she was trying to leave the neighborhood to go shopping or whatever.
Yeah.
Whereas Luther was just like going about his daily life.
Mhm. Yeah. Like, there's also a moment, I think, in the movie where she's like, "I'm on the front lines."
Mhm.
Like, "I'm
Yeah.
on the front lines during this, and you get to, like, lay back, do whatever, and I'm on the front lines. I have to take, like, all the brunt of it."
You get to sit in your cozy little office.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And speaking of that time, it kinda goes into this whole tanning incident, which I find
It's so funny.
hysterical. In the book, I mean, this isn't as funny because there's this moment where, you know, Luther takes Nora to, because they gotta build up their tan in the tanning beds because back then, people were going in tanning beds. I don't know if people are still doing that anymore. But, uh, so Luther's taking Nora to go tanning, but in the book, she's, like, in, like, I'm pretty sure she's, like, in a bikini, but she puts on her clothes to go
Right.
out, and she
Yeah.
runs into, like, Father Zabriskie.
Mhm,
Is
that
Mhm.
he
sounds
is he
right.
named Father Zabriskie in the book? I don't
Yeah.
I
remember.
don't remember.
Yeah, he is.
But runs into him, and she just is, like, thinking about the fact that she's wearing, like, her
And
bathing
she's,
suit
like, getting a
underneath.
wedgie the
Yeah,
whole time, and she's
yeah.
uncomfortable, but,
This is
like
way more embarrassing in the movie
mhm. I loved it
where
in the movie,
yeah.
honestly. I really needed this in the movie. It was great.
Where she's wearing, like, she's going to tanning for the very first time, using a tanning bed for the very first time, and she, like, hits her head and she's wearing a bikini and runs out, and who first of all, I ain't going to a tanning place in the mall where
No,
No.
there's no doors in the front, for
No.
one,
no.
and it's wide open on a busy, like, during Christmas season where
It's
everyone's
very
and their mother's
90s.
walking by.
Legit, that was a 90s thing. Everything was in the mall. Everything was in the mall. Putt-putt golf in the mall, the movie theater
Mhm.
in the mall, the
Yeah.
tanning salon in the mall, the hair salon, nail salon, it's all in the mall.
Yeah. I'm not doing that. Mm-mm.
But there also weren't doors on the rooms for the tanning bed. There were just
Yeah, that was
curtains.
that was weird.
Yeah.
Well, the curtain thing was again, that was a normal thing, was the curtain thing.
Yeah.
Somehow you're supposed to be comfortable getting naked behind a curtain that you can't lock.
Yeah,
Nope.
no, that's gonna be a no for me. And she, like, runs out, and she hit her head, and, like, the whole freaking somehow the neighborhood is still here in the mall seeing you in this
Mhm.
bikini,
And it was like a
and
bikini that was purposely, like, ill-fitting because they're trying to be on a diet too because they wanna lose weight for this
yeah.
cruise,
Yeah.
which I feel like the diet part was definitely emphasized more in the book than it was
Oh,
Yeah.
100%.
in the
Yeah.
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah.
They were, like, darn near starving themselves.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like
They really were. And this is, like, kind of alluded to later in the, book, but at this moment, they are put in the newspaper the next day
Mhm.
of them in their bathing suits because Luther comes out and he's like, "You hit your head," and he's in a freaking Speedo, which is
Mhm.
oh my god.
Which I
He's
guess
in
is
his
better than the book because he's naked in the book.
yeah.
Mhm.
He's in a Speedo, runs out, and then tries to help her, and they're literally on the front of the local newspaper, which is insane.
Mhm.
And well, and so in the book after that point, they actually this is where the carolers come in. So, eventually, carolers come to their house
This
sent
is so good.
sent by their neighbors singing outside their window. In the movie, this part is hilarious because the carolers come and they're trying to ignore them, and there's a point where it's, like, finally silence and, like, "Okay, I think they went away," and Nora's, like, bends over to, like, get some yarn as she's, like, sitting at her chair, and then she gets up and they're like, "Frosty the snowman," like, right in the window at her face, and they're, like, screaming and, like, run to the basement in their own house. Also,
Run to the
like, why
basement. The
close
creepiest
your
Frosty ever.
curtains.
Right. Close the curtains.
Like, at this point, this is your own fault. Close the curtains. Like, what are you doing?
But then, like, they're in the basement, and it's, like, the creepiest Frosty ever
Yeah.
hiding back with glowing eyes.
Yeah.
Like, I almost had nightmares about that.
In the book, whenever they have this, like, whole the carolers there, the news is also there, and they're, like, trying to harass them, basically into, like, the Christmas spirit up in here, and they're just like, "Why are you skipping Christmas? Like, what do you have to say about that?" Like, the news is there. It's like,
It
"Okay,
was so
everyone needs
friggin'
to
funny.
relax. Everyone needs to relax. Everyone take a deep breath. In through your nose, out through your mouth. I need everybody to relax right now."
Luther was all about saving money. Do you wanna know something that's free? Minding your own business.
There you go. There you go.
That's the truth.
She said what she said.
Yep. So, eventually, the whole neighborhood is judged for this competition, and it's this part's funny because in the book, they, like, literally go out to eat, and they try to stay far away from their neighborhood during this moment, and the neighborhood gets 4th place, and everyone blames the Crank's house
Mhm.
since it's not decorated, for one, and they don't got no frosty on their roof. And their house is put in the newspaper, but like I said, in the movie, their house is in the newspaper, but next to them in their bikini and Speedo.
Well, but in the book, like, normally on the day that the neighborhoods get judged or whatever, there's a big Christmas parade, and they
Mhm,
usually go sit with their neighbors for the Christmas parade,
mhm.
and they didn't even do that, and part of
I
me was like,
know.
"That is free. All you gotta do is show up.
Mhm.
Like, bring your little lawn chair and come sit. Like, have some
Yeah.
hot cider or whatever," and they didn't even do
Even
that.
even Luther was just like, "I hope it doesn't snow because then Nora's just gonna get so upset and then wanna stay." Like, he was, like, literally holding on for dear life.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And eventually, like, kids are, like, protesting outside their house, and they're like, "Free Frosty, free
Free
Frosty."
Frosty. Like,
Like, it's so dramatic, but just so freaking funny. Like, I
it's
can't.
quite possibly one of the most extra Christmas movies
Yes.
in existence.
Yeah. And the 2 things are not in the book. Whenever he sprays down his, Lindsay's already upset. He sprays down his sidewalk and his, like, whole front yard with water, which turns into ice because it's so cold, and for the carolers and the mailman to, like, slip and fall, I'm like, "Okay, your ass is getting sued.
Right?
Your
Your
ass is
your
literally
homeowner's
that's a
insurance is
liability."
yeah, mm-mm.
Your ass is getting sued. And then second scene that's not in the book, which is one of my favorite scenes in this entire movie, is the Botox scene.
The Botox scene is great. The Botox scene is excellent.
Oh
First of
my
all,
god.
Botox does not raise your eyebrows like that. I wish it did. Like, I wish it would lift up my eyes a little bit, but it does not. So, I don't know why they made him like, "Alright, everybody do it, not just me."
Especially not maybe, like, if you've done, like, Botox, like, a million times, it'll raise your eyebrows like that, but not for
Maybe.
your very first time. Like, I've seen people that have had Botox a lot, and they have their eyebrows be looking like that.
Right.
But, for the very first time getting Botox, your eyebrows do not look like that. But it was
And then
freaking
his mouth, like
hilarious.
he takes a sip of water and it just all kinda comes out because he's, like, numb everywhere, and I'm like,
He's
"That
trying
was
to
not." He was like, "I got a shot of Botox." "No, buddy, you got, like, 80.
Yeah.
You got, like, 80 units all everywhere." Like, I've watched enough of the what is it, the Real Housewives of Mormons or whatever it was, like, I've watched enough of that to know how many units of Botox you need for that look, and that was not one shot of Botox, my friend.
And, like, whenever he's trying to eat, like, his little cup of peach,
It
the
was
fruit cup.
oh my
Oh my
god.
gosh, I talk about that scene all the time. That scene is hilarious, and
We didn't
it's
even
one of my
talk about
favorite.
we didn't even talk about the cat
Right,
getting
Oh,
I was
yeah.
waiting for you to say
The
that.
cat, Lindsey.
When he ices down the
The
yard and
poor
the driveway,
cat.
he ices the
The
neighbor's
cat
cat.
is the cat is Walt and Bev's cat, and the neighbors that he always has a problem with and is always, like,
And the
bickering
cat
with.
is always a problem, like, throughout the whole movie, he,
Yeah.
like and it's not really in the book, but in the movie, like, he's constantly accidentally stepping on the cat or
Mhm.
kicking the cat, and it legit is an accident more often than not, but it's turned into, like, a little vendetta against the cat.
Mhm. Yeah, and he sprays the cat with water, and then it was frozen. It was
This
like,
little
"Meow."
frozen, like, white
It was
Persian
fake, Lindsay, I
long-haired something.
promise. It was
that
fake.
It
the
was
poor
fake.
cat. He was just trying to exist.
It wasn't real. It wasn't
It
real.
wasn't
Cover
real, it
Buzz's
was fake.
ears. Like
I know. Don't listen. It's okay. I'm sorry.
Poor Buzz. Buzz like, "You woke me up."
I don't care about that cat. Like
Okay, so and then eventually becomes Christmas Eve, and they're packing, which okay, why are you packing the day before you leave? Okay, first of all, but that's none
I'm
of my
that way.
business.
I'll
That's
have a
me.
list, but I don't throw stuff in the bag
Don't
until
upset me
the
right
day
now.
before.
Don't upset me.
I packed
Listen,
day of.
listen, I don't have
Literally,
enough
Lindsay,
stuff to have stuff packed and then continue to live.
Lindsay, do not upset me. Packing day of? Are you trying to have me stressed?
I've done it. It's just way easier that way. I throw it all in a bag. I'll even take dirty clothes with me if I know where I'm going and I can get to a washer.
I'm sweating. Okay, so Christmas Eve, they're packing to leave, but they get a call from Blair saying she is coming home for Christmas and she's got a man.
She's got a man. She's been gone a month. Like,
She's only been gone 1 month and she's already coming home for Christmas. She's literally was in Peru and
mm-mm.
she is now right now in Miami with her new fiance. And and Blair's like, "We're having, a Christmas Eve party, right? Like tonight. And there's decorations up, right? Is
And
it
this was
snowing
the
there?"
moment that Nora could have been like, "Oh, no, baby, we weren't gonna do the party without you. I'm sorry." But no, she lies.
Nope. She's like, "Of course. We're having a Christmas Eve party. Of course the tree is up. Of course I'm making your favorite hickory honey ham. And of course I'm making your favorite dessert." And all hell breaks loose of
Okay,
them trying to get everything together.
so this is my only other mark in the book. It it just really made me laugh because legit, this is so real. This is so real. So Nora hangs up the phone. Luther's like, "Why did you tell her that?" And she's like, "'Cause we're gonna make it happen." And he's like, "I don't know what you're thinking. You're smoking crack. This isn't gonna happen." And she's like, "No, it's gonna happen, and we're gonna make it work." And then he starts to argue with her, and she says, "Don't start, Luther. This was your stupid idea." And he says, "You didn't think it was stupid yesterday." And she says, "Yeah, well, today you're an idiot. We're having the party." And they use that exact same line in the movie. I love it, like, 'cause I don't know how many times I've said to people in my life, "Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I liked you yesterday, today you suck." Like,
Yeah.
let's move on. Like,
Yeah. Moving on. We gotta go.
it was so perfect, and Jamie Lee Curtis delivered that so perfectly in the movie. She was just like, "Well, today you're an idiot. Like,
Mhm.
we're having the party." Like, that's my girl.
She's like, "Gotta get my Christmas vest
I love
because"
Jamie Lee Curtis
I
so
do
much.
too.
Yeah.
She's legit, she's my hero. I wanna be like her.
I think she just did so good in this movie,
She
like,
does good
for
in every
real.
movie, let's be honest.
Yeah,
Like,
like
it doesn't matter if it's horror, we're talking about, like, scary Halloween movies that I'll never watch,
yeah, like, I feel
or
like
what's the one where she traded play Parent Trap? No, not Parent Trap.
no,
Oh,
Freaky
no.
Friday.
Freaky Friday, like, she's always good. She's always good in everything. I love her. She was excellent in this. I 100% believe she was Nora.
Yeah.
I love
She was
her.
just, like, relatable in the sense that, like, you could relate someone to her. Like, you could relate,
Mhm.
whether it's your mom, a friend's mom, or, like, yourself. Like, it was just, like, very like,
It's
she's just
so
a relatable
relatable,
person.
and she did it so well.
Yeah, it was so good. So, at this point, like I said, all hell is breaking loose, she's like, "Alright, we are about to, we gotta do this Christmas Eve party. We're gonna about to save Christmas right now, and Blair is gonna be here at, like, 8 p.m." I'm pretty sure I was trying to figure out what time she had called
Mhm.
Yeah, in
and
the
how
m
many hours they had.
well, and in the book too, her plane arrived at, like, 6 something, and in the movie, it didn't
Mhm.
arrive until, like, 8.
Yeah.
But one more point I wanna make is that, like, the first part of the book is 140 pages, setting up Blair leaves, we have decided we're gonna skip Christmas, and dealing with all the BS that the neighborhood throws at us and our community throws at us for skipping Christmas. And the next, like, darn near half of the book
Mhm.
is from this moment when Blair says she's coming home to when she actually gets home. It is all hell breaks loose.
Yeah.
All hell breaks loose. And I think it's hilarious because even in the movie, it's just a little after the halfway point that Blair calls and says, I'm coming home.
Mhm.
And so, like, the first part is funny. The first part is, just in like a silly, humorous stuff. But then from this moment on is chaos. And it's
Yeah.
amazing. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
It's like the
It's
last
like
100 pages of a Sarah J. Maas book.
yep,
It really
yep.
is.
Exactly. That's
It really
exactly what it
is.
is. Like, so Luther, like, she gives, like, a list to Luther, like, "You need to go do A, B, C, D, and I'm gonna go to the grocery store, and I'm gonna go do all these things." And he's like, "I don't wanna do this." And she's like, "Okay, bye, I'm leaving, and you're gonna go do this." And he's like,
Mhm.
"Okay." So he goes to get a Christmas tree. They don't have a Christmas tree, so he goes back to, the Boy Scouts that visited him earlier to go get a Christmas tree, and he literally it's like a branch left
He's the
with
Charlie Brown
no
Christmas tree, like
yes. And he's like, how much for this Christmas tree right here?" And they're like, $75. And they're like he's like, "But the sign says it's only 15." And they're like, "Supply and demand, it's gonna be $75." They're like he's like, "I'll take it." They're like, "Really?" He's like, "Yeah, I'll take that." And then somehow the tree stays on top of his car with a piece of duct tape, and I don't know how that happened, how gravity worked, but we'll take it. Gets back to the house, not a single pine needle. Oh, it started with 3 pine needles.
Yeah,
Now
right.
it has 0. Okay, get to the house, no pine
That's one
needles,
of my
just a
favorite
branch.
parts, honestly, is them just being like, $75. And he's like, "I'll take it." And they're like, "Wait, what? Ew."
Yeah,
Like, "No."
and it's the fact that the kid was negotiating, and he's like, "Is this your kid?" He's like,
Capitalism, my
"Yep,
friend.
yeah,
He knew what was up.
yep,
Those Boy Scouts ain't dumb.
yeah," taught him well. So, he gets the branch back to the house, sees it has no pine needles on it, takes it, yeets it, yeet.
He does.
In the book, he just puts it in the backyard.
Yeah.
In the movie, he gets home and just immediately throws it across the yard.
Yes. Then he actually sees that his neighbor across the street, Wes, is leaving with his wife and his kids. They're leaving out of town for Christmas. And he
And this
runs
is
up
unhinged. This moment is
so
unhinged.
unhinged. So he goes across the street and he's like, "I need to borrow your Christmas tree." And they're like, "What the hell are you talking about?" He's like, "Blair's coming home for Christmas." And his
And
neighbor is cracking up.
this is very much husband to husband, man to man.
Yeah. The wife is inside, he's like, "'Cause we can't talk around in front of the wife because
Mhm.
the wife will say, 'Hell no.'"
Exactly.
Yeah. So
As
he's
she
like
should.
yeah. And he's like, "Let me borrow your Christmas tree, just give me the key, and then I'll just go in and get
Like,
that Christmas
"Shh."
tree." Yeah. "Shh, just don't tell anyone." He's like, "Alright." Like, the neighbor's like, "Okay, have it
And
back in the house by morning when I get back, and you can have the Christmas tree. If you break a single ornament, then we're both dead. Okay? So,
and
get
then
that
he
tree."
enlists the neighborhood hooligan, Spike.
Yeah, Spike. See Spike, tackles him to the ground, by the way, in the movie. Tackles him to the ground. I'm like, "That's a
In the
child."
book, he doesn't tackle him. In the book, this is extortion. He basically, like, pays him and
Yeah,
says, like, "But keep quiet or I'm
yeah,
telling everyone."
yeah.
Like
In the movie, it's a full-blown tackle to the ground, you know, saying, "You're gonna help me." Okay? He's like and he's like, "I don't want your money," because he's like, "All I got is a 20." He's like, "I don't want your money, Spike. I just need your help." And he gets a wagon, and they go inside to get the neighbor's Christmas tree. And this is the most unhinged, chaotic thing, and it honestly drives me insane. They're like, "We can't break a single ornament on this tree." They're not taking the ornaments off the tree while they're trying to sneak it out of the house. All the ornaments are falling off. They're breaking. He's like breaking baby's first
baby's first
Christmas.
Christmas. Like
You know, the way that they're moving the tree, they knock it over, falls on the wagon with all ornaments on it. You hear the ornaments breaking. It's driving me insane. Eventually, they get the tree out of the house on a wagon. It's like going down the driveway on the wagon, and eventually they like lose it. It's so chaotic. It's so chaotic that I love it. It's just hilarious. It's just like classic, like funny Christmas movie,
Mhm.
and it's chaotic in the book. It's funny in the book too. And, eventually, the neighbors are calling because, these nosy ass neighbors, like, it's Christmas Eve. Don't you got something else to do? No.
No.
They're
And
looking
legit,
at something in their binoculars.
I am that neighbor. I am that neighbor. I am the one like, I don't talk to my neighbors because that's gross, but I know what time they all leave for work, and I know when they're supposed to come back, and I know when so and so's got a girlfriend coming over, and I know when so and so, his wife is, like, doing the grocery shopping. Like, I watch because I don't have anything else to do with my life.
Mhm.
And so part of me is like, it's Christmas Eve. I'm stuck in home with these kids who are just like bouncing off the walls. I'm going to be watching out the window. I'm going to be paying attention to my neighbors because it's way better than dealing with these kids.
Yeah, I mean, I feel that though, and especially if, like, you see this chaos like a Christmas tree
Right?
rolling
Like
down
who's
or,
just
like
and
yeah,
and this one neighbor does not belong in that house.
yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
Like like
So, but, I mean, the neighbor had full-blown binoculars on, and
and then you got the neighborhood hooligan working with you. Like
yeah,
this can't be good.
yeah. So then he calls the police on Luther because he's has a wagon with someone else's Christmas tree in it, you
And
know?
Cheech Marin shows up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what's the name of that other actor? I don't know, but I recognize him from a few other movies
Oh,
too.
man,
He's
I don't remember.
He's in
Gary
so
Busey's
many
son. He's Gary Busey's son.
yeah, he's in so many, like, he's a I don't know, he makes so many cameos in a bajillion and a half movies. This
Yeah,
movie is full of them.
yeah.
He was in the wrong War of the Worlds movie that I watched, not the Tom Cruise one, the wrong one.
So these 2 cops are the cops that tried to sell him a calendar before, and he denied them, so instantly they come up and they're like,
What
"You're
up?
done. Yeah,
Mhm.
you're done." But then Spike comes back, Spike ran away at that moment when he saw the
Right?
cops. He's like, "Peace, like,
Spike's like,
see ya."
"Cops, I'm out."
Yeah. But then
That's
he
my
came back and he's
that's my
like
kinda kid.
yeah, he came back and he's like, "Look, Luther did have a key. I have the key right here. He wasn't breaking into the house." So then he eventually gets let go and gets to go in. And so Luther brings the Christmas tree into the house. And during this entire incident, Nora's at the grocery store. This isn't told in the book, this entire incident with Nora. We only see like the aftermath of this.
Mhm.
But in the movie, this is like this really
It's hilarious.
unhinged. Like, if you've ever been to the grocery store on Christmas Eve chaos. Like, I worked in Starbucks for a very, very long time, years and years and years. I've worked Christmas Eve, I've worked Black Friday, I've worked Thanksgiving night whenever they would have people,
Yep.
working then. And I know a chaotic store, okay? I
Mhm.
know chaotic customers when I see one. And, I've seen people running for some food or for anything, merchandise. So this incident honestly cracks me up of them, Nora needs a hickory honey ham, Blair needs her hickory honey ham, and there's only one left, and her and this other lady are chasing each other after it.
And she has a, cart surfing,
Yes. And then she doesn't get it and then sees somebody about to buy a hickory honey ham, um, in the front, and then they're like, "It's never too late to put some money aside for your kid's college fund," and writes a check for someone for the hickory honey ham.
capitalism, my friend.
Yes. But then eventually gets ran over by a semi truck, so
The ham,
uh,
not
yeah.
The ham.
Nora.
Yeah, not yeah, not Nora, the ham. R.I.P. the ham. So she eventually comes home and she sees the Christmas tree and she's like, "What the hell is this? Like, what are all these freaking ornaments? What are
Broken
these?"
ornaments, these are not our
Yeah,
ornaments,
Chicago Bears. What the hell is that? Like, I don't even know. I don't know her. And so she's pissed. She's like, and he's like, "I don't know what you're talking about." In the book, it's funny because he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. This is all from the boxes you gave me. Like, he's gaslighting her about the
Mhm.
decorations.
He's such a jerk, I'm telling you.
And she's just like, "Okay." And she's like, all she has is like
In the
smoked
movie,
trout.
he's just like, "Stop asking questions, just deal with it."
Yeah.
Like,
And during this entire time, they're trying to invite people to the party, the Christmas Eve party, and no one can come. In the
because
book,
everybody's made plans.
yeah. Also, like, and they haven't started inviting the neighbors because they don't want to do that because they're just like this whole chaotic nosy neighbor incident was
Right?
insane. So they continue. I think Blair in the movie calls again, like
Mhm.
updating her location and saying something about like this dessert that she wants. So Nora has to leave again. That she
Mhm.
like to the store. There's also a character that's kind of in the book, kind of in the movie, but in the movie, it's supposed to be this, like, Santa character. I'm
Yeah,
not really sure what's going on there,
I'm
but
not
in
either.
the book, there's, like, a character that she sees, like, whenever she's shopping for wine that, like, she doesn't recognize him or recognize
She
his name.
recognizes his face, but she's like, "Where do I know this guy from?"
Yeah, and then invites him to the Christmas Eve party. Same thing kinda happens in the movie, but they kind of, like, wrap it
In the movie,
around to
they
be
explain it.
yeah,
In
to
the
be this
book,
yeah.
he's still just this guy who showed up.
Who
Yeah,
knows everyone by
Who knows
name.
everyone. Yeah.
yeah.
I think it
So
was supposed to be, potentially Santa Claus. Like,
Yeah.
everyone knew him, but nobody seemed to know who he was.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So during all that chaos, while she leaves again, Luther attempts to put up Frosty, even though at this point, I'm pretty sure he has to pick up Blair from the airport in, like, 2 hours or something,
Right.
because it's, like, dark outside at this
Mhm.
point.
But instead, the idiot decides to climb the roof by
Yeah.
himself
Yeah, so
with
he
no one
climbs the
home.
roof, and this causes all the neighbors to come outside and watch him because, like, the neighbors are
I
nosy as
mean, I
hell.
would've too, let's face it,
I would have
you
been
know?
watching from the comfort of my own home, thank
Yeah.
you.
I
You're
would have with my
vacuuming the
binoculars.
driveway. You're
I
vacuuming
don't
the driveway because you wanna see what's
Sweeping.
going on.
I would've it was cold outside. I would've just shoved my chair right up into the window with my binoculars.
Yeah.
Like
So, and then eventually he falls off the roof and the ambulance comes. But this was one of my favorite scenes, and because Walt and Bev are there because, all the neighbors are watching him, and Walt is like, "I called 911," and Luther's like, "Thanks, Walt." And he's like, "Bev made me."
He's just dangling from
Yeah.
the rope or something,
Yeah.
by his leg.
Yeah, and at
Oh,
this
lord.
point, Frohmeyer does this, like, this is the cute classic Christmas, like, everyone comes together, gathering everyone around, is like, "Listen up." He finds out about Blair's coming home, and that's why, it's all chaotic over at the Cranks. He gathers everyone around, and he's like, "Listen up, we're going to help out Luther, even though he's been a selfish piece of shit." Like,
Yeah.
basically, that's what he's saying, like, he's like,
Yep,
how come the what does he say? "How come the daughter should pay the sins of a father?" That's what he
pretty much.
says, and, like, I
Not
don't
gonna lie,
remember.
though, I started to cry during the audiobook, the narrator's reading
Mhm.
this part, and I'm like, "Community, neighborhood friends, like, this is a family, man." I don't know what got into me, but I started to tear up and I was like, "Get it together, Crystal." Like,
I did
I
like
always
this part.
yeah. I always cried during the movie, during this, like, whole
oh, okay, so I'm not the only one.
end.
Like,
Yeah, during this entire end, I always cry.
Dan Aykroyd over here, like, this is what neighbors do. And Blair was the one who babysat all of our children.
Yeah.
And we're doing this for Blair.
Mhm.
And I'm like, who's got a turkey? And we got to have all the side dishes. Everybody bring a dish. Everybody get ready. And we're coming back here in 30 minutes. And
Yeah.
like,
And he's, like, getting like, everyone, like, runs around and, like, helps, like, decorate and, like,
he turned
hurry
into
up
like
and
some sort of like neighborhood general,
yeah.
like,
And you
like
know what was
lining this all
cracking
out.
me up? I was cracking up at so whenever the ambulance came, there was also firemen. The fire Can we please The ladder? Well, okay, the ladder incident when he cuts Luther and he just, like, falls to the ground.
Hmm.
But, okay, so whenever they're decorating in the house and stuff, the firemen are walking around in their full gear. Did anyone see that?
Yeah.
I thought you
They're
were talking
in
about the fireman getting hit in the face with the ladder.
No, I didn't even notice that.
There are so many just, like, little things throughout the whole movie that are like that, like
Like, even near the end, whenever they're, like, literally toasting at the end, there's a fireman in the background in full gear, helmet on and
mhm,
everything. I'm like, "Take off your gear." Like,
nah,
there's no fire.
nah.
There's no fire. But so at this point, Frohmeyer also assigns the 2 cops that were there. This is not in I don't think that this
It
is in the
isn't a book, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, okay, okay. I couldn't remember because the robbery incident is really throwing me
The
off.
robbery
I
is
hate
not in the book.
I
Yeah,
hate
the
the
robbery
robbery incident.
incident is not in the book, and there's a whole robbery situation in the movie, and I have no idea why it's in there, and I have no idea the purpose.
I don't really get it either.
So whenever in order to help save time, Frohmeyer assigns the 2 cops to go pick up Blair and her fiancé from the airport.
Mhm.
But during that process, Spike, like, gets them on the radio because for some reason he knows how to contact them on the radio.
Hooligans, I'm
Yeah,
telling you.
and tells them to basically stall because they need more time because they somehow, like, got there early. And so during that, they're like pretend the cops with 2 civilians in the back here literally were like, "Oh, we're gonna go, trail around and"
We got a call about
yeah,
a domestic
possible
dispute
incident.
or yeah,
Yeah,
like,
possible incident over here. And, like, they're pretending in order to stall. And then it turns into, like, there's a real life robbery and they have to arrest someone. Okay? So then they eventually get back to the Crank's house and you're like, "Oh, whatever happened to the guy that they arrested?" Oh, he's sitting in the back
just
with
chilling.
Blair and her fiance. So the 3 of them are in the back of that car, the police car, chilling. So that all 3 of them are in the back. They get to the Crank's house. The cops get out of the car and join the party with the freaking person in the back seat still back there.
Yeah,
And Spike comes
and they just
outside. Of
leave
course,
him.
it's Spike. Yeah, they leave him there. Of course, it's Spike. He comes out and he's like,
He's
talks
like,
to
"What are you
him.
doing back there?" Like,
He's like, "What are you doing back there?" And the guy back there, he's like, "I haven't eaten 7 days." He's like,
yeah, yeah.
and it was just like this whole incident. The guy gets out, like Spike lets the guy out because somehow he has keys to the handcuffs because it's Spike, it's just Spike. He just does things like this.
He's a menace to society, it's
Hmm.
okay.
Somehow Robert gets on top of the roof. It's a whole incident. I don't understand why it's here.
It doesn't add anything to the movie, really,
No.
No,
at
no.
all.
Other than the fact that Tim Allen got to say something like, "What are you doing up there?" And I thought I was watching the Santa Claus movie.
Yep,
Yep.
yep.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
That's the only
Mhm.
reason to put this whole scene
Yeah.
in the movie.
So eventually, Blair and her fiance get to see Luther, Nora, and like they hurry up and get everything together, and everything's decorated. The whole neighborhood's there, and Blair has no idea that they were about to skip Christmas, and the Christmas Eve party is in full effect, and like everyone's having a great time, and in the movie, this is where I really think Luther in the movie is, like, particularly a
Yeah.
jerk because he's not like this in the book. Like, in the book, I
Mm-mm.
feel the sense that he's very, like, appreciative that all of this happened, and he feels good about it. He's just
Yep.
like, "It is what it is." In the movie, he, like, still has this sense of resentment that
Yeah, he's
Blair came
pouting.
home.
Yeah, he's pouting that he doesn't get to go on his cruise.
Yeah. So, Nora does, like, a little toast, like, even her fiancé does a little
So, yeah,
toast.
because like, the new fiancé gets together with the guy, Marty, that nobody seems to know, Marty, Martin, whatever his
Yeah,
name was.
Marty.
Which we didn't know his name.
Yeah. Well, in the book, yeah. So or
In the
we
movie,
find
we
out
didn't
his
know.
name. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a whole scene that I wanted to talk about with that.
Okay,
Well,
go
tell
ahead,
us. Talk
Lindsay.
about it, because I'm about to go into the music scene, so you do the before scene.
In the movie, when they finally find out that his name is Marty, Tim Allen goes, "Houston, we have a name." And I was like, I feel like we can really relate to that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's a yeah.
No,
Everybody
really.
gets a name in this book, Keri. Are you excited? There were no
Yes.
nameless characters.
Yeah, because honestly, I would be livid. Marty, I was like, "Don't mess with me now. Don't upset me."
So they find out Marty's name, and then they also find out that somehow he spent 5 years in Peru and he speaks fluent Spanish. So he like hits it up with Enrique,
Mhm.
the fiance, and they're hitting it off and they're talking, and then they decide they're gonna do a musical number, and the freaking stationer back there from the pumpkin seed pops out with a pan flute, just happened to have one in his back pocket, like, and then Dan Aykroyd jumps in
Yep,
with an
I was about to say
accordion,
that.
like, that's my favorite part. I cracked up. I was like, "What the hell is happening?"
And here's
Because
the fireman
legit,
still
that's
in the
my
back.
family Christmas. That is my family Christmas. Someone will show up with a tambourine and a guitar, and then suddenly there's an accordion, and suddenly someone else has a xylophone or some random shit. It's happened. And so when I saw this happen in the movie, I was like, "Oh my god, it's real." Like, it
Relatable.
took me a minute.
I love that, though. I wish I had family members that could all play instruments. That would be
No, you
fun.
don't. No, you don't. I'll send you some videos later, trust
Okay,
me.
okay. But yeah, so, this part really upset me because Luther's just pouting, and then Nora kinda looks to him for a toast being like, "Can you please thank everyone for what they just did for us right now?"
Right?
And he's like, what does he say? He's like,
What
"Same for
she
me
said,
double."
double.
Yeah,
Yeah.
"Same for me
Yeah.
double." And, Nora's pissed, like, she's like,
Mhm.
how dare you? These people just spent their Christmas Eve helping us put this whole thing together for Blair, and that's all you can say? You're still pouting over this cruise, and then he's like, "We could still leave right now. Blair and Enrique can still stay here and, like, have the place to themselves, and we could still leave tomorrow." And she's like, "How dare you? Like, she just traveled all this way to stay here. How
Mhm.
dare you?" And, like, leaves him to pout about it because she's like has to treat him like a child because he's acting like a child.
Mhm.
And then the door opens and he sees across the street to Walt and Bev's house because they didn't come to the party. And this part is what makes me cry. Is when his like act of kindness is going over there and giving the cruise as a Christmas gift to Walt and Bev.
Do we even
And
discuss at all in this episode that Bev has cancer?
We said she
I
was
said
sick.
that she was sick.
Mhm.
I did
Okay.
say she was sick. Yeah.
Yeah. So she's, like, relapsing,
Mhm.
and they think this
Yes.
is probably her last few months.
Mhm. Yeah. So he goes and does and gives that to them,
And
and
Walt is just like, we couldn't,
mhm,
we can't, we'll pay you back." And then he's like, "This is a gift.
mhm,
Please just go."
yeah,
And legit, like, I didn't cry, but I teared up. And I knew it was coming because,
mhm,
again, I've read the book, I've seen the movie, I knew it was gonna happen, but it still hits me. It still hits me every
yeah.
time.
I love that part, and he even offers to watch the cat that he hates.
Mhm.
Yeah,
But in
he
the
even
book, he does
offers.
admit that, like, knowing full well that Nora is gonna take care of the cat.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
true.
Yeah.
And then Nora comes out and she's like, "I just heard, like, Bev just called and she just told me that what you did." And then the very, like, last, line is like, skipping Christmas. Maybe next year. And that's the end of it.
That's it. Well done.
Yay!
All done. Now, I am curious, your final verdict, book or movie?
Both. Legit
Yeah.
both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, they are incredibly close, incredibly close. But the book, the audiobook in particular, it's under 4 hours. It's
Mhm.
not like it's gonna take up a crap ton of your time. You know, the movie was what, 2 not quite 2 hours, an hour and 37 or something like that, I think.
Mhm.
So, yeah, do both. Especially, honestly, with everybody traveling, like, do the audiobook. It's short, it's a perfect book to listen to on a drive, on a road trip, like, worth it.
Yeah. Lindsay, do you agree?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the neighbors made me mad, but it was fine.
I know those neighbors were so annoying. Like, I don't know. I'm not sure how I would feel. I can't say how I would feel if I read the book and watched the movie. But like I said, I just feel like I said before, we would like my family always said that this would be something that my parents would probably do, attempting to skip Christmas and then
Mhm.
it just like failing miserably and like everyone laughing about it. But the movie is, like, has such, like, a special place in my heart because of that, but
Aw.
honestly, like, the book I thought I wouldn't like the book because I'm like, "I just love the movie, and I feel like the book is gonna be, like, some silly little thing," but the book was really fun.
The
I
book is
actually
really
really
good.
enjoyed it.
John Grisham is just really, really good at character development through these little, like, insightful moments, these small, you know, like, in the book when Luther sits up and calculates everything, like, we
Mhm.
kinda learn, okay, he's meticulous, he's a planner, he's a thinker, he might not say a ton, but there's a lot going on in his head, and we learn these little things throughout his characters through all of his books this way. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, and so let's get into our question of the episode. I wanna know, everyone, one of your holiday or winter traditions. So, Crystal, I wanna start with you.
Well,
Just a
I
ho
kind of already said it, like, my
Yeah,
family
apparently
is
you're in a band all over there.
we legit are a musical family. I joke to everybody I meet or anybody who gets to meet my family that, like, be prepared. We're like the weird Partridge Family kinda thing going on. Like, we're all musical, we all sing, we play instruments, we know all the freaking musicals.
I was about to say, that makes sense with the past
Yeah,
episode we just
like
did.
we are a very musical family, so that's one of the things that we do, and not even just at the holidays, just anytime we sing, but at the holidays in particular,
Mhm.
we sing, we play. I unfortunately don't play any instruments, but, like, we all everybody busts out whatever they play, like drums, guitar, legit an accordion. Like, my family's we're super into music, so that's kinda what we do.
I wish I played an instrument.
I'm gonna send you videos, you just
Yeah.
wait.
Okay. Lindsay?
We
I wanna bring back a tradition.
Okay.
Ghost stories.
I knew it.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. I don't really
Nice.
have one currently, so
Yeah.
I just
Well,
wanna bring one back.
start that's a good one to start with.
Once upon a time, years ago, in a land over the river, through the dark forest, and into the mountains, there was a castle. I don't know, I'm making shit up. Like, don't listen to me.
Once upon a time, haunted.
Yeah.
The end.
The
Then there
end.
was a ghost who
There was a
lived
ghost.
happily ever
That's
after.
it.
That's all I know.
Oh my
What
gosh.
about you, Keri?
One of my family's holiday traditions that we do every year is we have basically like Christmas Eve Olympics over here. We have a day full with prizes and my dad likes to put together all of our games and our prizes and the prizes go from really really terrible to really really good and you just don't know what you're going to pick and you have to like
That's awesome.
hopefully you pick something good, hopefully you don't pick something bad, and it's just really fun, and they go from, like, really silly games to, like, really, like, intricate, crazy games, so We do that every single Christmas Eve, and it's super fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's really awesome.
So that's a wrap for season 1 of
We
Based on
did
a
it!
Book.
Yay, us!
Thanks for joining us this season as we have laughed, cried, and dived into books and movies that some of us never thought we would try. We found new things to hate and new things to love.
Mhm.
And I hope this episode brought a little bit of extra holiday magic to your day. Don't forget to subscribe and follow on our social medias linked in the description, and keep an eye out on our podcast platforms for some bonus material. Happy holidays, everyone, and we will see you in the next season of Based on a Book. Bye.
Bye.